This is the first session in my Basic Economics series. My hope is that, through this series, I will help you have a better understanding of the economic world in which we live, and at the same time, help you understand some of the major debates amongst economists. But before we get to the tough stuff, let's start with the basics. The most fundamental truth in economics is this: humans act. More precisely, individuals act. All of economic theory must be founded, ultimately, on this basic truth. Let's define exactly what I mean here. When I say that individuals act, I mean that individuals undertake purposeful behavior. That is, each of us, at least at times, has a purpose in mind and does things to try and achieve that purpose. Expanding the idea a little bit, human action is the application of a means according to an idea to attain an end. For example, suppose that I want to make a YouTube video about human action. This is the end I'd like to attain. There are a number of possible ways that I could do it. I could stand in the middle of the room, spin in circles for 53 seconds. I could eat a banana. Or I could type up a script, record myself reciting the script, and use video editing software to match the audio with relevant, or at least not unpleasant graphics, and then publish and upload the video. Or I could buy a digital video camera and just wing it, and publish or upload whatever happens. Obviously, some of these methods won't work, and others will. However, they are all ideas about how I might attain my ends. Each idea contains various means, whether those means are a banana, video editing software, or my own labor. This is the structure of every human action. We have some end in mind, have some idea how to attain it, and use means to do it. One thing I want to point out before I move on: not all of human behavior counts as action by this definition. For example, my heart beating is not a human action. It's not a human action because I do not decide to make my heart beat. That is, there is no end in my conscious mind that keeps my heart beating. Naturally, I'm glad it does, and if I did have to decide when it beat, I would decide to keep it beating as necessary to keep me alive. However, none of these facts make my heart beat an action in the sense of it being something I do with a purpose in mind. Also, note that groups do not act. Now, individuals may act as part of a group in some sense, but despite what psychologists say about groupthink and such, the fact is that individuals must each have the idea in their mind for them to act, and each mind is separate, even if they all agree on a particular end and means of attaining it. So, when we say that a group acts in a particular way, we're really only speaking as a metaphor. What we truly mean is that the individual members of a group tend to think and act in a particular way. The group has no existence apart from the individual members. So, that is the fundamental principle of economics, that humans act. Naturally, there's a long way to go from here if we want to explain prices, business cycles, and so on. But all of these explanations will come ultimately from the fact that humans act. Occasionally we're going to have to throw in additional assumptions, but the most basic one, the most fundamental, is that humans act. Now let's continue from this point and make some immediate observations. First observation is that the reality of action implies scarcity and choice. Now imagine for a moment that all of your ends were already attained. That is, your heart's every desire is fulfilled. Would you act? Well, the answer here is no. In fact, in such a case, action is impossible. One cannot apply means to the attainment of ends if there are no ends that have not yet been attained. That is, if action does take place, and it does, then it must be the case that we live in a world of scarcity, where not everyone's ends are all attained. In fact, casual observation suggests that no one has all of their ends attained, as everyone is acting to some degree. Choice also flows from the reality of action, once we recognize that fulfilling ends generally requires the expenditure of time. For example, right now, I want to make this YouTube video, but I'd also like to eat some cookies. Unfortunately, when I'm eating cookies, it diminishes the quality of the YouTube video substantially. So I have to choose how I will use this time right now. Will I make a YouTube video, or will I eat cookies? Choice, then, implies the existence of preferences. Since I am faced with choices between different ends, I must decide between them somehow. Economists suggest that we make decisions according to our preferences. So, I choose to make this YouTube video rather than eat cookies right now, because I prefer to have a finished YouTube video sooner rather than delay the making of the video so that I can enjoy a snack. One strong point here: choices between ends are ever and always in accordance with preferences. It is in fact logically impossible for you to choose a less preferred end over a more preferred end, based on the information that you had at the time. That said, based on information you receive later, you might regret a decision. If I had known it was going to rain, I would have worn a raincoat rather than just a t-shirt and shorts. But at the time that I made the decision, with the information I had at that time, wearing a t-shirt and shorts was what I preferred to do. That's why I did it. So let's wrap up the lesson today. All of economics is founded, ultimately, on the undeniable fact that humans act. From the reality of action, we can derive the reality of scarcity, choice, and preference. Also, we know that choices are always in line with a person's preferences, though they are limited by the information available and used at the time of the decision. So far, we haven't gotten down to much of what people think of as economics, but fear not, that's coming. Stay tuned for future lessons in basic economics.